We ended the last podcast bemoaning this international break, but it does give us the opportunity to step off the championship treadmill and speak to people we'd like to speak to and catch up with some people. So this is the PinkUn.com Norwich City podcast. I'm Connor Southwell. I'm joined by my usual colleagues to my right. Sorry, gents, you're not going to get that much of an introduction today, but Sam Seaman and Adam Harvey. And we're joined by Alfie Hewett. Alfie, hello. How are you? I guess you've had a bit of downtime after what's been a pretty special summer for you. So yeah, how's life been over the last few weeks?
Yeah, life's been good. It's been different to what's been the norm this year with the amount that I've been travelling, been on the road, and obviously a busy summer with all the slams and competitions. But I think I've reached the pinnacle being here. In the PinkUn studio. This has been something that I've been looking forward to. So. It's great, obviously, to listen to you boys every Sunday when I'm driving down to London, and to be here in the studio, it's quite surreal.
Yeah, we either keep you awake or drift you off to sleep. I'm not quite sure what it is, but you can come again after those nice words. So no, thank you. And yeah, I mean, there's no better place to start really. What a summer it's been for you. You've had obviously a few weeks to reflect on it. I mean, has it sort of gone beyond your wildest dreams? What you did over the summer? Has it really sunk in yet? What you achieved?
Yeah, I think slowly over time it started to sink in, and I can reflect with nothing but admiration and just proud of all the achievements that I've had. Wimbledon was a real milestone for me. It's no secret that losing the last couple of years was growing, and the narrative started to build about that elusive last Grand Slam singles title. And it was a journey to obviously get there. I started playing at Wimbledon back in 2015, 2016 was the first singles Grand Slam match I played there at Wimbledon. And every year you think, is this going to be the year? And you only get one shot at it, but it's like, is this going to be the year? And I thought, with grass, it probably wasn't my natural surface. So I've had to learn and evolve and adapt and develop so much over time. And then back in 22, it was like, right, I finally made my first final, missed out by a couple of points, come back the following year, lost again. So this time around, it was like, I don't want to get to a final and lose. I'm happy to lose in a semi, but I'm not making a final and losing again. But obviously got to the final and managed to secure the win this year. And it was, just all the emotion from the past years and obviously the willingness to want to win it because it was the last one. And, it was a fairy tale really that day because me and Gordon won our sixth doubles title there at Wimbledon as well. And it'd been building up for that very moment. Like at the start of the year, obviously we sit down as a team, we line out our goals and what we want to achieve. And obviously Wimbledon was the one. And to then come off the back of that with both of the singles and doubles titles, it was like, wow, we sort of did it, and it was a really strange period afterwards to take it all in because I'd been in my head building up for such a long period, and it was like, oh, well, that's done now. So so what next? And thankfully I had the Paralympics, which you don't need much of to get up for. It was an incredible couple of weeks, and still processing. I think the outcome of what happened out there. Obviously, we got a gold in the doubles with Gordon. Was once again something at the beginning of the year that when we looked at it was like, right, we want to win this. We lost in Rio. We lost in Tokyo in final. I'm sick of silver medals. I didn't need a bronze or a gold. I saw whatever, just not a silver. And we won that, and it was like just the most amazing moment. You saw it in the reaction and the celebration afterwards. Like it just meant the absolute world for us. But then it was like, oh, I've got to go and play another final tomorrow. And that, there's a lot to talk about that match. It was great for so many reasons. The spectacle, the entertainment of it, having an injury at the beginning, overcoming that, getting to a gold medal match point, losing it, then he won it, then the celebration, just all of it. It was just quite an intense match in front of, a full stadium, Philippe Chatrier. So, when I look back, I'm like, it's been a good summer, and I can hold my head high with it. A lot went into it, a lot of preparation, a lot of sacrifice, and that's why you do it for. You want to come out of it with medals and trophies, and when you look into the future and you want to leave a legacy, it's those moments and events that really define that. So I think I did a good job there.
You speak to a lot of sports people, especially at the highest level, and they say that as soon as they've achieved something, they're on to the next thing and on to the next thing. I'm sure in previous summers, having missed out in various ways, as you as you spelled out, you've had sort of nagging things in your mind when you've had a bit of a break. But did it feel like maybe you could allow yourself to be a bit more satisfied during this break and enjoy it a bit more, having ticked off so many milestones?
Yeah, it was, like I say, it was a strange period because I'm only used to losing and then having to get back on the horse and almost fight that again. We're quite lucky in tennis that there's always another event, whether it be a few weeks or a month, but the calendar is pretty relentless, that there's always something around the corner. So when I've lost big matches, my, I guess, management or way to deal with that is not sulk and let it eat me up too much, but just fuel that for the next block, fuel it for the next tournament, and try and release it through things that I didn't do too well and try and improve on. There's a real strategy behind it. So that's what usually the summer is like. But then after Wimbledon, it was like, oh, okay. Like, I'm shattered because it was the most mentally draining few weeks of my career. But then there wasn't that disappointment, there wasn't that anger, that frustration. I genuinely felt like a massive weight had been taken off my shoulders. And, going forward in the next sort of chapter and next cycle of my career, I think I've got to learn to manage that, because there's always been something in the back of my head, and it was always Wimbledon. Yeah. It was always like, I'm not going to finish and retire until I've won Wimbledon. Yeah. That's how deep it really got. And then suddenly that deep-rooted core motivator gets taken away, and you're like, oh, right, so why do I have to get up at 7 a.m. anymore and do everything that you're doing? And now it's just for the love of it, and to try and continue the sort of momentum that I'm on, and grow the sport, try and get more people playing, try and showcase what it's all about. And the Paralympics for me was a bit of a first step with that, because I tried not to go into it with the same intensity as I have done with other events, to make it a little bit easier for me. So then I just took it all in and enjoyed it, and it was a nice tournament.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the Paralympics and the fact that it obviously only comes around every 4 years. You see a similar sort of pressure with footballers around the Euros and the World Cup, with how rare that is. But obviously in the singles especially, you're taking on all that pressure yourself. Does it add to the fact that you want to win, given you've got such a big gap until the next time?
Yeah, I think I've learned a lot over the cycles, because this was my third Paralympics now. So the first one, everything was all new and exciting. I probably didn't understand what it was all about. I just went there, had an unbelievable 10 days or so, managed to get 2 silver medals, and really appreciated it at the end. Obviously during it, I was still loving every second of it, but in terms of what it meant and the value around being part of Paralympics GB. And then the second time was obviously Tokyo, and it was 5 years later with COVID. And there was a lot going on with my situation at the time, with classification question marks and whether there was a future. And so that was almost overshadowed with me going through that. It was very difficult to sort of manage that period and try and think long term. So then at that point, it was like, just think about now, the present, don't think about the future. Whereas now I look and I go, right, I've had 2 Paralympics now. I know what it means. I know that it doesn't come around very often, and there's no guarantees. In 4 years' time, I might be unlucky with injury. I might suddenly have a change of heart. I'm not saying I am anyone, but I'm not playing anymore. But you just never know what the future is. And when I look back to 8 years ago, when I was 18, and I think that was my first Paralympics, to think 8 years on, I'm now where I've learned so much along the way, and so much has changed, that I try not to just put that pressure, even though there is pressure, and naturally there will always be pressure. To be able to perform once every 4 years, to win something that you haven't won is quite a lot to ask. And you have to learn, when you're in other events, how to manage those expectations and manage those pressures. And I think that's just where I'm at with the stage of my career now. I want to enjoy it a bit more. I don't want it to be such a mentally consuming experience for me, where I'm not sleeping before matches, food's being affected because I'm so nervous, just that whole anxiety around it. It's not pleasant. Afterwards, it's great when, you get out there and you actually finally get to do what you've been thinking about for so long. But, it's a lifestyle, and it's a lot more than just that moment. So, yeah, I guess I'm in a bit of a transition with it all at the moment, and having this little break has been nice to reflect on sort of the last few years.
Yeah, you spoke there about kind of your career and up to date, and where did tennis start for you? And maybe, you know, the young lad from Norfolk, did you ever, you know, believe you'd achieve the sort of success you've had, I suppose, at a senior level?
I mean, when you get into it, you don't think this is going to happen, and that certainly wasn't the case for me. I started when I was about 8, back at Lime Tree Road, East Anglian Tennis and Squash Club. You know, I had Perthes disease when I was 7, which, for anyone that doesn't know, it's basically where the blood flow going to the hip ball is affected, and so the hip starts to dissolve. And I played a lot of football before that, and then gradually over time, things were happening. I was getting a lot of pain, wasn't able to put weight through the leg. They thought it was growing pains. Long story short, it wasn't, and it got worse and worse. And you know, eventually, I couldn't put weight through the leg, and so couldn't get involved with football anymore. Obviously, it was wheelchair bound, so I was missing a big part of me, my character, my DNA, which was sport. You know, even before that, I was really competitive. You see me in any sort of game, you know, I want to win, and maybe a little bit too much at times, but you know, to have that transition going from, you know, able-bodied to then a wheelchair was difficult for me to navigate at, you know, 7 years old. Anyone who goes through that, it's so hard to understand what's going. You think, why me and all of this? And so mum and family, they recognised that obviously going through a bit of a low point, and a lot of change was happening. But the one thing that, you know, I really loved was participating and playing sport. So we went to so many different wheelchair sports, played basketball, played tennis, went down to UEA and had like an open day where you could go and trial lots of different disability sports, just to get, you know, the good old Alfie back, you know, get him competitive again, get him back playing sport, you know, the physical benefits, the mental benefits, and also socially as well, because obviously kids at that age probably don't understand what being in a wheelchair is all about, and I felt like I lost a little bit of my friendship group, but getting back involved with sport gave me a new friendship group. And so yeah, that was really my purpose at a young age for picking up a racket, and I was hopeless. You know, you see videos of me at 7, 8 years old. There was no career then, I tell you. But I loved it. I enjoyed it. I was able to go on court with my brother and my sister, playing killer catch and stupid little games and having fun, and that's what sports, especially at a young age, I believe is all about. And then after a few years of getting the hang of holding the racket and the chair and getting a forehand in, a backhand in, all that, started to, you know, pick it up a little bit more, train a bit more. Got scouted by one of the GB scouts, I guess, at that point. And yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah, you spoke about the sort of highs and lows of your career. You also mentioned family there, and how important are they in sort of your journey to this date? You're picking you up from those difficult moments, you know, celebrating those high points, and also I suppose the sort of collective support of Norfolk. You know, I mean, I feel like you're sort of one of these characters. Lauren Hemp's another one where the whole county is fully behind you and enjoys your success. So, do you feel that support when you're sort of, you know, across the globe competing?
Yeah, I've said it quite a lot with. You know, especially my family and the local support. It's incredible, and it goes so far. I know I'm the one out there that's competing and participating, but there's so many people behind the scenes that make it work. You know, I have my professional team, but you know, that emotional support, you know, being able to pick up your phone and call someone, whether it's, you know, family, whether it's my partner, whether it's messages online, and just see that there really is a lot of people that are behind you and backing you, win or lose as well. It's you know, it feels like a real community, and it helps me. You know, sometimes you struggle. It's the nature of it. Win or lose, actually. You know, you go through difficult periods in life, and you know, for me, obviously, when I was 7 years old, I needed my family to recognise that, and they stepped up and gave me that support. They took me around the country, dipped their hands in their pockets when there probably wasn't a lot there, and really invested in what I was doing, because they could see the benefit that it was giving me. And up until I was 18, I was still getting driven and chauffeured by my grandfather, who still watches every single match today, and criticises. That's the nature of him, but I'm not getting into that. But it is, you know, they're there with me every single step of the way. And you come back from a tournament, especially like a Wimbledon recently. you know, it's your family that pick you up. It's your friends that, you know, put an arm around your shoulder and say, yep, tough week, but you're going to go again. And it's really that support and their understanding of what it means to me. And, you know, it's not just tennis, it's so much deeper than that. And that's why I'm a bit of an emotional player and I wear my heart on my sleeve out there. But, you know, they're fully on board with everything I do and understand what it takes to get there. And, you know, there's a lot of things that have had to happen along my journey and a lot of support. You know, I said it at Carrow Road the other day, like, so many people in the county have helped me, whether it be financially, whether that be, you know, giving access to tennis courts, or whether it be coaches or hitters or whoever it may be. There's been so many people along my career and my journey from Norfolk who, you know, without them, I wouldn't be here with the accolades that I have today. And I think it's important not to forget that and really, you know, appreciate it, because grassroots, I believe, is one of the most important parts of the pyramid. Doesn't matter what happens at the very top. If you don't look after what's happening at grassroots and give them the support and give them the outlet and give them what they need to be able to go and kick on and thrive, then, you know, we'll be left with not many professionals, I believe.
What was the stage for you? And you mentioned family support, and I think that's the bit maybe people don't see. They see the sacrifice of the sports person and the person that is sort of front and centre, but not necessarily the people behind them. But what was the stage for you where it became, okay, I'm quite good at this. There might be something here for me, or did that come slightly later? Because I think it's different for different people, isn't it?
I mean, I was probably always a bit confident. I wouldn't say cocky, but when I was younger, I probably needed more reining in than bringing out of my shell when it came to sport. I always thought I was the best with what I was doing. I think for me the moment was London 2012 actually, and I was 14 at the time. Missed out on being part of the Paralympic squad, but I was able to still be like on this inspiration program where you could get a bit of a feel for what it was like, and I saw some of the professional players play, and I was still obviously competing at the time and sort of making my inroads in the game. But just watching that and the spectacle that was the games in London, it was the real, I think, game-changing moment for me. I was like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to be part of the Paralympics. I want to win medals. I want to, you know, make this a career. And when you're 14, you still don't always know what you're doing. I always knew that I wanted tennis, but I wanted to make sure that it was for the right reasons. And I think that for me was just the turning point that made me go, yeah, do you know what, I want to do this. I was inspired. I loved every second of it. I want to be part of it in the future. And then with that, the sport has just naturally grown over time anyway. And it was a big year. Yeah, it was a big year that year.
And in terms of, I want to take you back to Wimbledon, which I'm sure you'll take great pleasure in going
I will
back
now,
to.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is sort of my point. So when you're on the court and there's a championship point, I mean, what is going through your head? Obviously, you need to be focused, obviously, but I can imagine there is a lot that goes through your head about how close you are, about everything that you've been through. So what was that moment specifically like when you're that close to doing it?
Yeah. Strangely enough, we sat down the day before and we talked through like what if scenarios, scoreline scenarios, things that might happen in the match, whether it be you, whether it be the opponent, try and cover all aspects so that when the match or that situation arises, you know how to deal with it. And the team were like, okay, you're a game away, you're serving for the match. What are you going to do? And I stopped them. I said, guys, if I'm a game away, you don't need to worry about that. That's not going to be the problem. And they were like, no, we should really try and talk about this. All right, guys, if I'm a game away, I can tell you that now. I'm going to put everything into every shot and I'm just going to absolutely go for it. They're like, okay, sure. And then obviously I got a game away and actually I watched that match back and I literally did that every point. It was like, I'm going to just give this my all. And it wasn't so much that moment in the match. It was probably the middle part of it, like after the first set. I'm sat there at the change of ends and I played Martin, I think 22 times in my career and only lost once. So, I mean, before that was difficult in itself because you start getting ahead of yourself. But I'm sat there and I'm like, this has gone to plan so far. However, I'd been in that situation a year previously when I played Taquito in the final and I'm sat there at 4-1 in the first set. You know, we analyse a lot, we prepare, we talk about the match and the game plan, and it had all gone perfectly. Half an hour later, I'd lost 4-2. And it was like, well, what happened there? I wasn't ready for that. And maybe got ahead of myself in that final. So that you learn from that. And it's okay for the thoughts to come in your head, because you can't stop thoughts coming into your head. It's natural. It's what you try and combat that with, and how you then go on the court and play the next moment. And so much of tennis is psychology. It's ridiculous. But I literally said in that match, I'm just going to take each point and each game as it comes, and until that match point arises, I'm not going to think about it. Even though you in the back of your head you are thinking about it, and you're like, I've got a good feeling here. The match is going my way. Crowd's amazing. I felt like this was all going in my direction. And then it got to match point, and I looked up and I just stared at my coach, and he nodded and I nodded. And I was almost holding back the tears, because I knew, I was like, I know I could still lose this. There's every bit of me knows I could still lose this. But how this match has gone, the way he's playing, the way I'm playing, I think I was 40-love up in that game as well. So I had 3 match points effectively. I was like, I'm going to take one of them. I know I'm going to take one of them. And I sort of knew. I missed the first one. And I was like, okay, maybe you need to take this a bit more seriously. Steady. Yeah, I missed it by like that. I was like, all right, come on then. And the second one, cleaned it down the line for a winner. And it was like, I don't really remember that moment, because honestly, I'd been probably thinking about it for so many days, and for many months leading into it. And I couldn't quite believe that I had done it, because it had been this almost Mount Everest for me, that I just wanted to get there. I wanted to get there. And then you got there, and it's almost like, okay, why?
What do I do now?
Yeah, like it was such a really, it was an amazing feeling in the moment, like to be able to look up, and I saw all of my family there that I needed and wanted to be there, apart from my brother, who was away offshore, which was gutted, but he had a little mini Barney, was in the crowd. Everyone there that had been on me on this journey, family wise and friends wise, it was a real special moment. And you can never predict what's going to happen in sport, but as much as it gave me a lot of heartache and disappointment along the way, I'm glad it happened when it happened, in front of thousands of people as well, live on BBC. It felt like it was really deserved, and earned, and had to go through a lot, and I learnt a lot along the way, which, it's all about the processes, obviously, but yeah, it was a special moment.
And that was going to be my next point, because I think people look at Wimbledon, they look at gold medals and whatnot, the successes, but how have the ones that maybe haven't gone the way you liked, how much has that shaped you to get to that point? And because it feels like you probably need disappointments and near misses to get to wins and success and trophies and Grand Slams, obviously.
It's such a big thing in tennis, losing. Even in a match that you win, you're still losing a lot of points. And dealing with those disappointments, or those matches, and how you overcome, I think, is probably the biggest thing that I've learned in myself and in my development, because a lot changes. People come in, they give you new questions, new challenges. They might try something different. There's a whole aspect of tactical side of tennis, but also the mental side, and making sure that you as the individual are out there performing your best is the most important part of that puzzle. And how you deal with that loss can be damaging. When you lose a big match, confidence can get hit. Anxiety can increase. You could fear the next match. You could fear that situation. And I have an unbelievable team who I've worked with now for a few years. But we look at every loss the same way as we look at a win. They're both equally as important. You can learn so much, and it's very cliche of me to say, but you do learn a lot from a loss, and there will be emotion and there will be disappointment, and that's natural. And the character that I am, you can't eradicate that, whether it's during a match or afterwards, and I've got to go through that process. But in good time, it's being able to logically look at it and sit there and go, right, what elements of my performance in that moment didn't do well? Was it my physical side? Was it my tennis? Was it my serve? Was it my pressure point moments? And you really look at it with a fine eye, and then you go back to the practice ground or the training court, and you work on it. And when you're in that moment, you try and take the confidence that you've learned from practice and from doing it over and over again, and hope that next time it prevails and it gives you more of a successful outcome. And I think there's so many little things within tennis, which is why it's an amazing sport, because it's not just one thing. There's so many elements to it, and one day it could be working for you, and you think, I've conquered that, but then something else comes up, and you're like, I hadn't thought of that. And that's the beauty of it, and that's why there's so much losing in tennis, because there's so many external environmental variables that can be changing. I mean, the courts change, the balls change, the opponent changes, the wind changes, the sun changes, the stadium change. There's so much change, and that can have an influence, and learning to deal with that. And that's not even talking about the person and like themselves and what they're managing and their mindset and everything. So it's really fascinating, this journey that I've been on. And I actually have said to my team, sometimes I do enjoy losing, because I know that I'm going to come back stronger and I'll be better for it. And I believe with the loss that I've just had in the singles final was, an inch, 2 inches from getting a double gold. And don't get me wrong, I have struggled to process that and deal with that, and some sleepless nights thinking if only it was 1 inch to the left, that would have been a completely different story. But I'm also someone that will be like, right then, what's next? How am I going to make sure next time this comes around that I take that chance and I'm ready for that moment? And it just makes you better and you evolve. I look at when I played a couple of years ago at Wimbledon, that guy then doesn't stand a chance against me now. That's how much I've evolved, even just within a couple of years. I look at my mindset, my technical ability, my tactical awareness, my movement, my physical stuff. It's incredible what you can do when you just put your mind to it and you've got a great team around you.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier about the sort of confidence that you had growing up and early in the sport. With tennis being such a, it's so important to win those big points that come so often in the matches. Do you feel like that gives you quite a big advantage psychologically, that you've grown up with that sort of confidence?
Yeah, I think when I was younger, I had a fearless attitude. I probably wasn't confident in myself, and what I was going through with my disability, that I lost a lot of confidence there, and I struggled with that. But I became very aware of my surroundings and what I was doing as I was growing up, and I think that's what helped me certainly at the beginning of my junior career into my senior career, was that I didn't fear, if I was playing against an older person or a higher ranked person. I actually thrived off that and loved the fact that I was the underdog. And even now, I like to be the underdog, even though I think going into majority of matches recently, people have labelled me as the favourite, and being number one in the world, they say that. And yeah, I don't believe that. And I find it actually more difficult being the guy on the top at the rankings than being the number 2 in the world. It's a really different mindset. But yeah, I think at the beginning stages where I was fearless, it gave me a lot of benefit. But then, like I spoke about earlier, I think I learned a lot about the meaning of it all, the value of it, the attention of it, how prestigious these events were, especially the Grand Slams. Like, they mean a lot. And when you get announced to someone, it's how many Grand Slams you've won, or how many gold medals you've won, or Paralympic medals you've won. And so these moments actually have a lot more meaning than I thought they did when I first started. And I think it installed a little bit of fear into me, actually, when I went through a bit of a patch, and I was going through a lot anyway a few years ago. But I think I didn't deal with that as well as I'm probably dealing with it now. And like I say, this whole journey is full of highs and lows, and you learn so much about yourself, because I'm changing as well. I think the 18-year-old Alfie was completely oblivious to all of that. And like I said, probably was a bit confident and just took it in its stride. The 26-year-old Alfie is, deep down, he's still confident, but he's aware of the threat, he's aware of the good and the bad, the reward and the heartache of things if you don't win it. There's so much more meaning to everything that you do now. So it has changed, and I look at Taquito, the guy that I lost to in the final, and he's still just that young, fearless, confident guy who's lapping it all up in the moment. And I was that, so I understand it. Hopefully over time he understands the meaning of it as well, and maybe things will change. You never know. But it's certainly been an advantage, and I think when I get to pressured moments in matches, having that is fight or flight, and I know I'm someone that will fight and have a reputation of coming back in matches and really zoning in when it needs to. I think it's quite a skill that I'm quite fortunate to have.
Yeah, as someone who likes being the underdog, how do you now deal with the challenge of being the favourite going into almost every match that you play? Is it Is it the same as you spoke about earlier in terms of just sort of getting the enjoyment out of the sport and trying to see it that way?
Yeah, I mean, mindset is obviously a big part of it, and trying to not put that, I don't know, expectation on my shoulders when maybe externally people are. I believe on my day that I can beat anyone, but I also believe on their day they can beat me, and so there's never really any complacency. I'm very proud of the consistency that I've had in my performances over the last few years, because I've made something like, I don't know, 12 out of 13 Grand Slam finals in the last 2 or 3 years, which is remarkable, really. When a few years ago I was I know. I mean, I didn't win them all, but just to have that consistency, better get to major finals was something that I believe was possible, but then went and done it, and I feel like I can do it more. But even still, I believe there's a lot of dangerous players out there that can beat me, and so. Yeah, I think when I go into matches, a lot of the thoughts are still very much on me, where I'm at in my game in the moment, whatever I'm dealing with in the moment, what I want to improve on in the moment. And that's probably why I'm able to sustain the performances that I've had recently, because I don't try and create this story or this narrative and expectation that, okay, I've won 12 in the last 12, it means I'm going to win this match. It's absolutely not the case. I feel like I'm always seeing an opportunity to be better, and I think that mindset is what's really helped.
Yeah, you spoke there about mindset. I mean, football managers typically say it's one game at a time. Is that kind of the approach that you have to take as a tennis player? Is it every tournament is individual to the next one, or sort of do you look further ahead at what's coming up and sort of maybe target certain tournaments to try and win, or how do you sort of balance that?
Yeah, I think if you have, like I did this year with Wimbledon, Wimbledon was something that I wanted to build up to and really be, in a good place for. So the grass court season going into it wasn't about winning or losing, and that's been probably something that I've had to learn, because normally when I go on a tennis court, it's just winning. I've just got to win. I don't care how I do it. I've got to win. Whereas the team that I have now, we're really good at taking a hit if I need to take a hit. If there's something that you need to work on, because practice is so different to competition. You can try and put as many stress tests or pressure tests in training, but nothing compares to actually just being out there, being in a live scenario. At maybe a lesser grade event, trying the things that you want to display in matches. It's buying into that process that if I do this, okay, one in practice, but one now in a competition where there's maybe not so much on the line, I hope that then delivers in the moment that I need it to deliver. And that's probably been a great thing that we've worked on a lot over the last few years, is trying to use and prioritise tournaments for certain things, almost like train through events, so that you build the confidence. Because if you do something in training, don't do it in tournaments, and then you want to go and do it in a Wimbledon final. Well, you've got no history of doing that in a match, so where are you going to gain that confidence from, or that just I don't know, the moment to go, right, I'm going to do this right here because that's what I've done. So I think that's probably been a big part of. Yes, you have to be in the moment, and you do have to take each match as it comes, but you have goals in certain times of the year. Otherwise, you probably just run yourself into the ground if every match to you is just about winning, because that's okay. Of course, it's why you want to play and you want to win. But I don't think that's enough when you've been doing it for so long. You want to work on things for certain moments. And I know this next chapter for me will be about trying to improve myself even more so, and using other events to do that. And yeah, if you see a loss, it's hopefully for the right cause.
Yeah, in sport now, you sort of see nutritionists, psychologists, data's regularly used. Has that kind of become part of your preparation now, maybe more than the past? It feels like certainly sort of in the last 5-10 years that it's become a much bigger part of sport generally.
Yeah, Connor was trying to tempt me with a stuffing sandwich beforehand, and I had to say no. If it was a week earlier, I think it might have been different. But
at least I offered.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I got the water. It is. The game has been evolving for the last 3 to 4 years. There's a lot more research going into the wheelchairs. There's a lot more money being invested into people's trainings and being better, whether it's nutrition or psychology. Tennis, you need everything. You need to be in good shape. You need to be physically looking after your body. It's great having the best serve in the world, but if you don't have a shoulder to be able to do it, then you're not going to get out there. And those little fine details, they aren't fine, they're actually quite big, but looking at them, really marginal gains is where I'm at now, and even to the point where I'm looking at my chair, is anything I can do to get myself a few inches higher so that I can get a better serve, or there's so many elements to it that you can always improve on. That's why it's great that the sport has done so well to evolve, because people are like, okay, yeah, there's more money getting into it, we can get better here. If we use that and invest that money and get the right people on board, we're going to get a stronger serve, we're going to get a stronger hit on our shots, we're going to move quicker, we're going to anticipate better. The analysts that we use, they're going to help us be a little bit better in this area and that area. And looking at the last 2 years, that's been probably the biggest thing. It's not just what's on court, it's everything around it, and developing a good team to help you really improve. And it's shown with the level that the sport is at, especially in the men's game at the moment. It's a good level. I think it's the highest level that it's ever been, but I believe it's going to get stronger. And so I've got to make sure that I'm not, falling behind, and I'm continuing with that adaptation and evolving.
Let's move on to football then. Before we speak about Norwich City, which I'm sure you're absolutely desperate to do, I mean, from a sporting perspective, you obviously play at the highest of high levels that there is. How much do you relate to footballers? Very different sport, but in terms of the stuff around mindset that you spoke about, and that maybe will to win, but obviously massively different sport. But as individuals, do you relate to them on any sort of level? Or I suppose you can compare a little bit of what they're experiencing and what they're going through compared to maybe what you've had.
Yeah, I think there's so many skills and characteristics that athletes will just share amongst us all, no matter what sport you're in. The mindset, the discipline, those moments where maybe you got to kick on, or you got to get up early, or whatever it may be. I think that's not even just in sport, that's in life. With successful people who want to do well and want to progress in their careers, it takes sacrifice, it takes discipline, it takes direction and setting goals. And I think that aspect of sport, I see in every sport. Obviously, the bit that changes is probably the little technical, tactical skill elements and the sport itself, obviously. But the way you conduct yourself, the way you behave, it's all the same. Confidence, that doesn't change no matter what sport you're in. It comes out in different forms, obviously. But then maybe the nerves they feel beforehand, or when there's a big match, how they deal with that. I said when Norwich have been in big matches, take maybe the playoffs last year or a few years ago when they're in the final. I was thinking, I wonder if they struggle sleeping the night before, because I know I struggle sleeping, getting to bed the night before and trying to switch off when you potentially could be going out and playing in front of thousands of fans that are desperately wanting you to do well. Same with the Euros in England. That's how I see sport now. It's completely changed my vision. It probably makes me sympathise with them a lot more. And when the team's not doing as well, or maybe at the start of the season, when you can clearly see there's a new guy in the building, and he talks about process and talks about the patience. Well, I've been on that journey where someone has said, you may have to take a hit in the short term, but for a longer term gain. And obviously, I'm not gonna criticise Norwich fans, but then you hear after a couple of games in how,
what's he doing?
Oh, canary call, and I'm like, I understand that it's clear there's a vision here, there's a process and a plan in place. I'm sitting there, watching our team do Hull 4-0 at the weekend. It was like, thank you. This is what they were talking about, and it does just naturally take time with those things. It could be in any sport. If you want to change something especially from where the club is at, there's so much change. It's going to take time. I'm actually impressed how well they're doing so quickly. Yeah.
Talk to us about Norwich City then. When did this love affair start for you? Has it always been, growing up and as a child, always Norwich City, always supporting Norwich City?
Oh yeah, always Norwich City. I won't throw my brother under the bus, but he may have worn a different shirt one time to a Carrow Road game. But well, it was, but it wasn't that end. It wasn't that end. But we'll stop with that. But for me, it was. I played football before I was in a chair. Lakeford Rangers when I was younger. Really? Do you know what? And maybe we'll have to carry this conversation. We will. I think I got a picture
Of me?
of us in maybe the team when we was younger or similar. But we'll talk about this off camera. But yeah, so obviously I played when I was younger, and then had my condition, and still love football. You know, football was to be honest my goal, as every I think every 6-year-old dreams of being a professional footballer. I did say I wanted to be a goalkeeper. I turned out to be 5'6", so that's not a good day. So I don't think I would have got very far. But you know, I loved it, loved playing it, and obviously I missed playing and being involved with football. I used to still go down to the Lakeford games in my chair, and I'd be a little mascot. I'd still get the trophies. They were pretty dominant back in the day as well. So there was a lot of trophies that I hadn't actually played, but I was mascot, so I take to the mantelpiece. But yeah, I think missing out on being part of it. My mum and my family, they wanted me to carry on watching it, and so they got me a season ticket. I was quite fortunate enough to get a season ticket when I was 8 years old at Carrow Road, and it took me to all the games and fell in love with the team. And yeah, I've obviously always been a big fan ever since.
And how much does the club mean to you? Obviously, as we've spoken about, you're all around the globe a lot of the time, but are you always watching games wherever possible and keeping up with the results? And does it still hurt quite a lot, even though you're thousands of miles away a lot of the time when maybe it doesn't go well?
I'm a big fan. You know, I want the team to do well. I want them to succeed and win as many games. And when I do watch it, you know, I am just a fan. I've been told off a few times by my team for maybe getting up in the early hours of the morning when I've got a match to prepare for, and I look a bit tired today, Alfie. And then they look, and Norwich are playing at 2 o'clock in the morning because I'm on the other side of the world. It's like, I can't get away with that one, can I? No. So yeah, I'll always try and follow them. They're a big part of seeing my upbringing and a lot of meaning behind it. You know, when I was going through what I was going through, just being able to watch football and go there, and it was part of the experience for me. It was part of getting over what I was going through in the moment. And I think that's why, you know, I fell in love with the sport and obviously the club, and they've been nothing but supportive, and they did obviously a lot for the community back then as well. I remember attending a couple of the foundation sports days which they ran, so they gave me a real purpose, where it was with a fan or actually getting involved with sports. So I feel like, you know, they've done and helped me along my journey. And now I'm just a really hardcore avid fan that loves watching them play and tries to go and see as many games when I'm home or from obviously away and near them, that I'll try and get to it, and you know, love what they're doing.
Yeah, you mentioned the fact that you can sort of relate to the players in certain ways, being an athlete as well. Does that maybe make you slightly more reluctant to criticise? Do you feel like there are elements that maybe other fans might not consider that you consider when you watch the team?
Yeah, this is what we talked about. No, of course, like there are moments where I think criticism is justified. If someone or if there is a bad performance, it's highlighting it is not an issue. I think athletes, I will say, I'll be the first to say I didn't play well today. Whether I sit there on stand there on the side of the pitch and shout at them or whatever is a different matter. I'm not someone that will do that. I can sympathise that someone may not be having a good day, but that's the beauty of football. If someone's not having a good day, you know, yeah, well, you can tell them, we can get them off and get another one on. You know, it's a bit difficult when you're the one-man band over here and you're not having a good day, but you know, you have got 10 other players around you, so you can maybe rely on them, and that's the beauty of sport, isn't it? That, or team sport anyway, that you can sometimes you're having a bad day, go under the radar. But you know, even just when I was invited to sit in the director's box and meet some of the players at halftime and have an interview and stuff, and then afterwards we went down to the pitch and they're all doing their recovery work. It's like, oh wow, yeah, it's the same as what I do. Like it's so similar, even though it's a completely different sport. But what the basics are in sport, it's still the same. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah, obviously you've been to Carrow Road and out on the pitch at half time at different points. I mean, what's that feeling? You know, that you've got all these supporters that are follow the same club as you, and you're the one that's on the pitch. You know, that's the fans are adoring as well. You know, obviously a Norfolk lad, a Norwich fan. What's that feeling like?
I was a bundle of nerves, to be honest. I was actually more nervous for that than I was, I think, for any of my major matches. Yeah, it was great. You know, it was a real honour to to be asked to go out on the pitch and obviously say a few words in front of the fans as well. There's a lot of Norwich City supporters who who message me and support me and have messaged me and followed me over the course of my career, and some have actually gone out and travelled to all around the world, New York and Paris, and been there with their flags. So, we're quite a tight-knit community, I think, in Norfolk. They're just amazing people, and that stems from, the top to the fans. And, even when I was there, met Delia, and she was amazing. She had followed my success over the summer, had watched it and had lovely words and really welcomed my family who were there for the day. All the way through to Adam, Neil Adams, and we sat on the same table and he'd been following it. So, it's a special club that, who have followed my journey and been part of my journey, and now, to see them and be like behind the scenes. It's a bit weird. It's a bit surreal. It's almost like imposter syndrome, isn't it? Being there in the moment, and like I said, the fans were great. They were very welcoming when I came out on the pitch and made some noise.
Yeah, you mentioned special club. There's been some special moments down the years. I'd imagine it's been difficult, maybe being away at different games. Maybe the Man City game or various other opportunities.
I was fuming. I couldn't believe that. Yeah.
But of those maybe you've attended or moments that stick out in your memory, if it's growing up or more recently, is there a game, a moment, a player?
Quite a few Ipswich games. Yeah, that's pretty much been my duration of being a Norwich City fan. I've never seen them lose. Yeah, I think the strange one that sticks in my mind, actually, always, is the Millwall game at home, 4-3. And then there was a couple of games that season where we scored late on, and the Forest game as well. I wasn't actually there, I was watching it, and I went absolutely berserk at my dad's because it was a Boxing Day thing. But yeah, there was something about that moment, just late drama. It was actually late night, wasn't it? Late drama. That I was going absolutely crazy. I've had quite a few away days that have been fun as well. Not so much in the Premier League, but yeah, there's quite a few matches. The Ipswich one I watched last season in Japan, and we had literally arrived, I think, a few hours before the game, and jet lag was pretty bad. It was a long journey. I didn't sleep particularly well, and I was literally having to try and keep my eyes open. And then the game started, and man, my heart was racing so much. And then obviously Nunes scores that free kick, and I'm thinking we're actually going to do this, and it looked like it was going to happen. But the last 10 minutes was, it wasn't easy, but they obviously got the job done.
Yeah, it's been not mentioned much, but it's a good record over Ipswich, isn't it? Recently, right? Final two then. First and foremost, I wanted to ask you, just off the back of what you said about the Leeds game and your interaction with the players. Did you find a lot of them had watched what you did and were aware of what you did and have sort of followed you as well throughout their time at the club, and how have they taken to you?
Yeah, there's a few of the players that have kept in touch and been following me, and Kenny and Grant. Tim Cruyff is still someone that does watch out and messages. Obviously he's not with the club anymore, but yeah, and some of the new lads as well. Callum Doyle, he came over, and it was just nice to people like that who I look up to. They're people I watch on the weekly who actually do see what I do or have recognised it, and even people like Ben Napper behind the scenes. As soon as I came through the building, he had a conversation with me, and he was completely aware of everything that I'd done, and he's obviously fresh into the club as well. So it was quite touching to hear someone who's doing great things obviously for the club and still new to actually be aware of what I'm doing. So yeah, it's like when you meet a celebrity. It's a bit strange at first. You're like, oh my god, like, yeah, hi, nice to meet you and all that. But yeah, it was a nice moment.
Finally, Hofball. How excited are you by what Torup has done so far? And equally, can they do it? Can they achieve something special this season?
You're getting ahead. You're getting ahead. I mean, the last few performances have been very optimising or optimistic and exciting, and it's easy to think ahead, isn't it? Look, if they carry on with that sort of trajectory, and it looks like he's really understood the Championship and demands of the players, and to see that level of performance was, especially 3 matches in a week, it's quite. I think it shows big improvements have been made. And I would say to my brother, because we talked about the Palace game, I thought the Palace game was actually a really good game. I know we lost 4-0, but you could sort of see things were starting to come together, and obviously a lot more progress was made afterwards. But you could start to feel that they were understanding what he was doing, and it's what as a fan you want. You want exciting football. I think if every club in the Championship was to be offered this sort of football, they would all bite your hand off for it. So it's great to see that, you know, Ben Napper, who's obviously been appointed, has come in and recognised that we want to play this way. We want to bring entertainment to the fans. Fans love a 3-2, 4-3 win, 4-0, whatever it is. And it's great to see that we're sort of getting that this season and being on the better end of it. So I'm optimistic. I think we'll be in and around it for sure.
Good stuff. Right, finally, before we let you go, what's your next tournament? What are Norwich City fans looking out for now?
So we've got the end of year Masters, which is the top 8 in the world, compete similar to ATP and WTA, but it's in Holland, and that's second week in November. So if anyone wants a trip to Arnhem in Holland, they're more than welcome. Tickets are on the ITF website. And then after that will be prep work for Australia in the new year in Melbourne for the Aussie Open. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Alfie, thank you very much, guys. You both happy? Nothing more to ask. Brilliant. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Alfie. Thank you all very much for watching and listening. And we'll see you again very soon for the next one.